Welcome back to the Lebanon podcast. I'm your host, Joe LePage. In this episode, we chat with Lebanon Community School Corporation Superintendent Dr. Jon Milleman. Dr. Milleman updates us on how the school year is going and how the corporation is getting ready for referendum renovations. Episode 99 of the Lebanon podcast starts now.
Welcome to the Lebanon podcast, highlighting all the great things happening in Lebanon, Indiana. Have an idea for an episode? Send an email to lebanon@lebanon.in.gov.
Time for the podcast this time around. We're talking with Lebanon Community School Corporation Superintendent Dr. Jon Milleman, coming in here on a Friday after a 2-hour delay, getting things rolling. Dr. Jon, thanks for being here on the podcast.
Thanks for inviting me. I appreciate it.
Now, we got a little tongue-in-cheek before we hit record, and we knew that, as you guys knew, as soon as you hit the, hey, we're having a 2-hour delay, and as soon as I shared it on the city's Facebook page, boy, the armchair weather men and weather women came out and were questioning the 2-hour delay. And why was it this yesterday, on Thursday, for things like that?
Right.
Kind of what goes into that process. And we kind of talked about it was worse, I think, going into overnight hours today than it was 24 hours earlier.
There were some concerns that started yesterday afternoon into this morning. Certainly our north-south roads, many of our remote locations, if you will, were one lane. Some of our gravel roads that our students live on and we need to access. But certainly those north-south corridors were challenging, and indications were that they would continue to be so this morning. And so we wanted to give everyone the right amount of time and daylight to help navigate that this morning. But we're out there every early morning and in contact with our county, city officials, and law enforcement, as well as our transportation department, and can only make the best decision you can with the information you have at the moment. So,
and I'm guessing erring on the side of caution is paramount, because you said you did have one of the buses or a bus in the area that had a bit of a slide off. Boy, that's a scary even thing to think about as a superintendent, I'm sure, and a parent as well.
Of course, yes, that's for sure. And so we saw that was going to continue to be challenging through the overnight hours. So I also consult the other superintendents in Boone County, and as you were aware, Western Boone and Lebanon both elected to delay this morning. So,
And it was one of those things, too, that it hasn't been a school year where there have been a lot of weather-related delays or cancellations or e-learning days. I mean, a couple, one during this week. Yeah.
Knocking on wood.
The blizzard of 2023 could be upon us. We never know.
Never know. It's Indiana. Stick around.
It is. Well, it's been a while since we've caught up. We kind of redid the podcast, and I got this Barry White thing going today. But how has the school year gone so far for you as we kind of hit not the home stretch, but we're on the final laps of the school year?
We're having a very good year. It's nice to have a quote unquote normal school year with without restrictions or challenges from what we dealt with the last couple of years. And we always have some turnover of new staff every year, but all of our new staff are acclimating well to Lebanon, and so we're it's been going well.
We kind of talked about the COVID, and you mentioned having a normal year. Has that been one of the successes to come out of COVID, where there are the e-learning days where kids showed their resiliency and were able to learn remotely, and then being able to utilize that and kind of a way to keep the education going, no matter the weather and things along those lines?
Yeah, I think so. I think that there's some residual to that, where students maybe, certainly in that hybrid schedule, where maybe they were assigned some work, and then they might be able to attend courses virtually and then back in person. So it does kind of help that budgeting of time and staying persistent and getting their work completed, and some of that cycle probably did have a holdover. I think, and maybe in your offices as well as many who may be listening, have found some new ways to communicate within their walk of life and business. We certainly utilize video conferencing more than we did pre-COVID. There's nothing like being in the room with your colleagues, certainly, but when we do not have to take administrators out of their buildings, for example, for a 1 or 2 topic quick meeting, we have the technology to do that, and we feel comfortable with that now, I think, in a new way. So
yeah, I think so too. Kind of bridges the gap between a phone conversation and an in-person, where you can still see the person interact that way on the personal level. even if you aren't able to meet face to face.
Exactly, and we're interviewing candidates for positions,
I can see that.
differently than we have as well, and we still have those final rounds in person. But a lot of the screening we've been doing through video conferencing as well.
I'm guessing it saves some money as
Sure,
well, bringing in candidates.
for both parties.
Oh, for sure.
Sure.
And everyone, we're talking with Dr. Jon Milleman. He's the superintendent of Lebanon Community School Corporation. And like I said, we haven't had a chance to really catch up and kind of circle back.
Right.
It was right around the referendum, I think, the last time we talked on the podcast here, the Love in Lebanon podcast. If you can kind of recap how things have been since the referendum, I'm guessing you were happy with the way things shook out in the vote, and how things kind of change as you get ready and the corporation gets ready for increased growth and things changing.
Of course, we're excited and humbled that our community supported us at the level that they did and take that responsibility very seriously. And so we've been very busy from May until now and in the planning stages. So we have worked with our architects and engineers for our elementary school building projects. At the February board meeting will be the first time we really unveil some of the renderings and potential elevations of the work at Harney Elementary and Perry Worth Elementary. Those two elementary schools will be the first two that will be touched as part of the building projects. We hope to break ground on both those locations in June of this year. Then the new elementary school, which will be located at the corner of Fordyce Road and John Bart Road, I think the public will start seeing some renderings of that as well and potential floor plans, and that's always exciting for folks to do, to see for the first time. We have committed to engaging with Schmidt Associates as architects and engineers for work at our middle school and high school. And those projects likely will not be funded through the capital referendum. Since the capital referendum, costs have changed. Materials cost has changed.
Construction,
Labor,
all that, sure.
Availability of labor has all driven some of those costs upward. So the bulk of, if not all of, the referendum funds, capital referendum funds, will be leveraged to the elementary school projects. We would be addressing middle school and high school and transportation center through other debt service that would be outside of the capital referendum. But because of that growth that you mentioned in our community, we'll be able to manage that school tax rate and be able to handle that in a place that our community has seen that live for a while. Even with the two referendum rates coming on the tax rate for 2023, we actually did lower the school tax rate by just a smidge. So it actually was able to go down through that process. So we're very proud of that ability to be able to do that.
Mm-hmm. And if you can kind of talk about, not maybe getting necessarily too deep in the weeds, but how desperate or how much were these renovations needed, whether you're talking about Harney or the new elementary currently dubbed TBD, to be determined as far as the name. We'll talk about that, the naming rights or how that's done.
Right.
But just the overall need for the improvement at a number of different campuses within Lebanon Community School Corporation.
Right, yeah. Let's kind of tie together your two questions, one being kind of the growth of the community and anticipated growth of the community, and then how that ties into our building project. So as the planning actually evolved, which it should evolve, from pre-referendum to post-referendum, and there were some local announcements about potential growth in our community after our referendum campaign. So when we step back and look at what would that mean for Lebanon, we looked at Harney Elementary as kind of a linchpin, if you will, potentially that north and west growth that could happen within the community or is anticipated to happen. We'd already planned for growth for the Perry Worth Elementary School. So our plan right now is to operate four-section elementary schools, which is roughly around 600 students. We're going to be increasing the capacity, but spreading that increased capacity out throughout the district. So in order to do that changed substantially our planning for Harney Elementary. So we're going to be actually adding a few classrooms to the footprint of Harney Elementary through this project that wasn't necessarily on the drawing board pre-referendum. So we're spreading that growth out. Perry Worth has really remained pretty constant in that planning process and taking that from about a 400 student capacity building to a 600 student capacity building as part of this project. And then the new elementary school will be a 6 to 650 capacity elementary as well, cost and budget allowing, of course. And then Hattie B. Stokes Elementary School is kind of a safety valve in this project. Gotcha. So our current plan is not to add to the footprint of Hattie B. Stokes, but when new neighborhoods such as the Waterford development or others may come online, then we'll have that elementary kind of in a perfect location
Yeah, got a
for us to
buffer
be,
kinda,
to
yeah.
be able to adjust. And if we need to add on in the future, we do have the capability there as well.
And the overall kind of idea is just to keep class sizes small and manageable, and have the education of students, be at the best level, the most
Right.
optimal level.
Right. Rather than, and trying to use your buildings as well as your staff as efficiently as possible.
Certainly. Everyone, we're talking with Dr. Jon Milleman, the superintendent of Lebanon Community School Corporation. And you kind of talked about showing some of at the February meeting, being able to share some of the renderings and things. Can you kind of take us behind the curtain and behind the scenes of how that's been going about, and
Sure.
how it's been received by those that have kind of gotten an inside look and a chance to see some of the things early in the process?
Right. Architects bring a lot of information with them. That's what they do. And they work with school districts throughout the state or the region. So they have many tried and true designs and methodologies that they can bring to the table, which is very helpful as you go through the planning process. That being said, there's wish lists that teachers have. There's wish lists that principals have. These are the folks who live in the buildings literally every day. And so they see possibilities. And so that's part of the process. The architects will meet with the building leaders, with the central office administration, with teachers, and begin to look at what's possible within the footprint, start with their designs, and then we get to a cost estimating stage at about a 35% drawing level completion. And then if we see the budget going off the rails, so to speak, then we can make some adjustments at that level to the point that we're going to be at February, March, where we're going to take this out to bid. So we can kind of right size that design. But we involve the folks who are in the building on a daily basis to help us with some design processes.
Pretty gratifying to see some of those kind of concepts come to life, and seeing the thoughts of so many that care about the school corporation being able to kind of see those ideas
Right.
in physical form.
For sure, and it's just always exciting to be able to to see a transformation. Harney Elementary, one of our two oldest elementary schools, and our custodial staff and maintenance staff do a great job. However, has age on the building inside and out, and so to be able to transform those classrooms into modern, high quality, modern facilities is just going to be very gratifying for everyone.
And we talked about the different campuses going under a bit of a facelift and growth there, but also some of the infrastructure could be changing as well. It was a couple of years, I want to say right around maybe pre-COVID or maybe right after. It all kind of blurs, with the coronavirus. But there was a roadway discussed that would kind of connect John Bart to more or less LMS and kind of LHS kind of right there.
Yes.
And that looks like that may be getting some traction once again, potentially
Yes.
being connecting a couple different portions of our community.
Yes. So at that time, we were engaging with the potential home developer for the property where the new elementary school is now going to be located. Obviously, now we have chosen that as our elementary site, since we're going to be on that campus, and we're looking at other potential uses of the acreage that the corporation owns in and around that new site. We wanted to take a look at that being the opportune time for us to take on that job, if you will, of making that connection. So we have engaged with an engineering firm to look at that and to get us some early schematics and cost estimations on what that may look like. And we'll see if we can put that into our budgeting process as well. We know we have heard not only folks locally around that site, just being able to connect to that middle school, high school campus, but also folks coming from Whitestown and from Perryworth Road and 600 and 650 and 575 and that area, being able to have a connection now from a different angle and a different way through town to be able to get to the middle school and high school as a want or a need. So we do see that as a benefit to the cities and towns and the community. So we are looking at it to see if it's something that we can make happen.
That was my next question, and to be honest, that's something I've dealt with personally, trying to be able to have that level of connectivity from John Bart there, and kind of being able to look across the field and
Right.
see Lebanon Middle School, but not being able to access it without going around.
Right.
I mean, from a functionality standpoint, you're exactly right. I mean, being able to go from point A to point B as opposed to putting added traffic on nearby roadways as
Elizaville
opposed
Road
to straight shot.
But there's a lot of folks we still have to talk to. We have to talk to our friend Mr. Krulik here at the city and Mr. Bontrager, and you would have to speak to the county as well, because that's where the county comes up to the city of Lebanon. So there's a lot of folks that'll be part of that conversation. But we have looked at that as a possible project that we may want to include.
Gotcha. Everyone, we're talking with Dr. Jon Milleman, Lebanon Community School Corporation Superintendent. And it was a couple of years ago that the city underwent a downtown revitalization, and there was a campaign that was called Embrace the Orange, where things are going to get messy. There's going to be a lot of orange cones and a lot of things being torn up, but it was all for a good cause. We were talking before we hit record that it could very well be, as part of the referendum, backtracking a bit, that that construction and those different campuses could be going on at the same or a very similar time, and it's going to be a lot of dust and movement and a lot of loud machinery.
That's right.
You guys are preaching patience, from
Yes.
what I understand, and
Yes.
getting ready for that to eventually be a good thing as a short-term inconvenience.
Yes,
So,
yeah. For our neighbors, we understand that there'll be a lot of trucks and a lot of movement, and it may be a little uncomfortable. But also preaching it to ourselves. There'll be displaced classrooms while renovations take place. There'll be challenges in getting students to and from lunch and recess, that they have to go alternate routes while. Maybe we're embracing the yellow construction tape.
There you
I
go.
don't know, but that there'll be quite a bit of yellow construction tape and visqueen that it's cordoning off entire areas of a building while they're under renovation. So you're right, it's worth it in the end, but you have to go through a little discomfort to get there.
Mm-hmm. And I'm envisioning different ways to kind of help those teachers kind of tap into their creative juices and being able to have different construction type units with the kids,
Yes.
and kind of being able to just, we're all in this together, guys. Let's just kind of, this is what it is, and it'll be good later on.
We've talked to our construction manager, the same construction manager that many use here in this area. Myron Ajum is our construction manager, and that's something they really enjoy, is engaging with the student body through the construction process to the degree that they can. So we will definitely make that part of the curriculum where we can.
As we wrap things up here, Dr. Jon, any, down the stretch philosophy, hopes, or goals as you get ready to wrap up the 22-23 school year?
I think for me, it's just excitement about 23-24. To be honest, many of the positions that will be added through the operating referendum will begin in 23-24. For example, we are interviewing now for the certified teaching positions to teach STEM education, science, technology, engineering, and mathematics courses in our elementary schools. I can't stress how unique that is, that a certified teacher is teaching that class in the elementary schools. In many schools, maybe it's a paraprofessional. You might experience some turnover in that, or it's only done outside of school, as a club, for example, not having a dedicated special course for students to rotate through in their elementary experience. And we're not only offering that, but we're going to be offering it with a certified elementary teacher. And so that's exciting to me, to see those courses come online, and to see that we're building dedicated spaces in each of the 4 elementary schools for that class and for that purpose. So I'm really excited about that.
And you talked before we hit record, there'll be a number of different job postings that members of our community and
Yes.
the periphery can kind of keep themselves aware of as the process continues to,
That's right.
if they've wanted to be in education or they've wanted to return to Lebanon to teach, there will be opportunities.
We are hiring.
We are hiring.
Yes.
Well, Dr. Milleman, thank you so much for joining us here on the podcast. Really appreciate it. Best of luck the rest of the school year.
Thank you.
And stay free of the slick roads and all the
We
icy.
appreciate it. Thank you all for your patience with that.
And thanks for listening to episode number 99 of our Love in Lebanon podcast. More episodes are just ahead. Take care.